Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedum, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging, and hearing a crowd going by, he inquired what was happening. They told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. He shouted, Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me. The people walking in front of him rebuked him, telling him to be silent, but he kept calling out all the more, Son of David, have pity on me. Then Jesus stopped and ordered that he be brought to him. And when he came near, Jesus asked him, What do you want me to do for you? He replied, Please, Lord, let me see. Jesus told him, Have sight, your faith has saved you. He immediately received his sight and followed him, giving glory to God. When they saw this, all the people gave praise to God. The Gospel of the Lord. Does anybody know the motto of a prestigious Ivy League school called Dartmouth? Very good, Sister Fatima. But it's written in Latin, in hoc deserto, in the desert, proclamit. The voice in the desert cries out. That is the words of the gospel. The Ivy League schools were founded on Christian principles. They made a profound impact on our country. And schools of higher education in Europe, universities, were founded on Christian principles, and at that time even Catholic. What happens is, however, these principles can clash with culture, and we can lose the beauty of what we have as a Christian people. And so you see this scenario working out in the book of Maccabees. Breakers of the law. So these were good Jewish people who were turning away from their faith because of a slow erosion of culture that was invading their ranks. And so they began to compromise. The Sabbath wasn't important anymore. And the law, well, not so much. They started to betray their moral values and even their religious beliefs. Let us make ourselves an alliance with them. That's what the Jewish people were saying. Let's make an alliance with those people. Let's all be one happy family. Thereupon, they built gymnasiums in Jerusalem, according to the Gentile custom. I did a little background reading because there's a footnote on the word gymnasium in the New American Bible, if you want to go check this out. Gymnasiums were not just a place like Planet Fitness. They were an educational and philosophical center. In other words, the gymnasium was a place for the government to subdue you in propaganda and enculturate you into the government's way of thinking, their government at the time. Yes. And so gradually, people give in. It's interesting that I remember a time when you couldn't buy alcohol on Sunday. No one of any Christian denomination would have thought of dishonoring the Sabbath. The evil one works in little increments to sneak up on us. And so gradually things erode and compromise begins to saturate us. Today we're celebrating the feast of St. Albert the Great. He was a great intellectual mind. He was the influencer of Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas gave a great contribution, as did Albert the Great, of taking Greek philosophy and seeing how it could help even explain Christianity. These were great intellectual minds. And so you see here in the book of Maccabees, a great read, by the way, a royal decree comes. All should be of one people, each abandoning his particular custom. So here's a call for unity, but it's a unity in the latest propaganda. And when you're called to abandon your customs, it's dangerous. In kind of a funny way, here at St. Marie's Parish, my parents were baptized and married here. And this was a French-speaking parish for a long time. My mother was told by the pastor that she couldn't go next door to St. Patrick's because that Mass was in English and that wasn't Catholic. It's not so much to discredit the Irish, because that was the Irish parish. Okay, it's not about that. But the priest was saying, you learn how to pray in French. If you lose your language, you're going to lose your tongue for prayer. To be careful of that. You're going to lose that culture that supports you, that Christian culture that supports you. The French line was qui perd sa langue perd sa foi. If you lose your language, you lose your faith. And so the Hebrew people abandoned their customs and they became slaves of the gymnasium and they became blind. Are you seeing the connections here to what we're living in today? We are the blind. We are this blind man. But this blind man reaches out in faith. And Jesus says, have sight, your faith has saved you. It is imperative for us to cling to our faith. Because it's our faith that's going to save us. We have to live in a culture as it is right now. But we also are called to be courageous and remain true to our faith. The culture that we live in today will not get us to heaven. It may more contribute to our demise. And it's funny how this culture has made us capitulate. We have public servants who vocally testify that it's okay to abort babies. They have capitulated. They've been swallowed by a culture of evil. They're blind. We must not be blind. Jesus invites us to look and see. I'm looking at you students from Holy Family Academy here. You have the privilege of having a Catholic education. You are preserving a culture, a counterculture. You're rebels. Jesus says in the gospel that the gates of hell will not prevail. Here is the army that God is using for that purpose. Throughout her life, the church has undergone many cultural revolutions. And there's always a remnant that survives. And we will. And yet we must be part of that force that finally begins to see and have faith in Jesus Christ. See Christ to Jesus on the cross, because God so loved the world that he gave his only Son that we might be saved. And he desires to save you. One of the places where we experience that is the Holy Eucharist, which we will receive this morning. St. Albert the Great and St. Thomas Aquinas taught beautifully about the gift of the Eucharist and what it does for us, where we physically receive Christ in an intimacy that not even the angels are privileged to have. We need to keep our eyes open and fixed on Jesus so that we might see. The gospel reminds us that this blind man who finally saw, he followed Jesus. In other words, Jesus became the guiding light. Jesus became what illuminated what was truth and what was not. Jesus became the one who revealed where we should go, because he's the way, the truth, and the life. And there's our answer to surviving in a culture that continually tries to erode our faith in God.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam meruisti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, alleluia.